Hey, what's up? I'm Coach Ryan Fanley and I'm in the Viper Pit today to talk about foundational or GPP exercises for the deadlift. There's one school of thought that says all you have to do to improve your deadlift is deadlift. And for a lot of people that's true. You don't need to do a bunch of stuff to improve your deadlift. You just have to be able to deadlift with good technique. However, I think it's better if you are able to include more exercises to improve your deadlift. Exercises that target the glutes, hamstrings, spinal erectors, and upper back and lats, muscles that are active in the compound movement of the deadlift. So everyone has dominant muscle groups and everyone has weaker muscle groups. A lot of this is dependent on biomechanics, your individual lever system, and how you've trained. So for example, in the deadlift, even though it's an exercise that works your lower back, your hamstrings, and your glutes, if you are someone who sits at a desk all day, sitting on your hamstrings and glutes, it's got a pretty high likelihood that you do your deadlifts mostly with your lower back, and your hamstrings and glutes aren't as active in the pull. Some people who have a background in sprinting are very hamstring and glute dominant, and they have weak lower backs. So they may be relatively strong, but their lower back, that segment of the body, is weak. So that's where these individual foundational exercises or general physical preparation exercises come into play. How do you do these? How do you incorporate these into your program? There's a couple ways. The first way is with a beginner, what I will tend to do is I will have them do these exercises exclusively without deadlifting, or if they are doing deadlift, it will just be very light submaximal weight to teach them proper movement patterns, proper deadlift mechanics. And then the main bulk of the training stimulus will be these general physical preparation exercises to strengthen the lower back, to strengthen the hamstring, to strengthen the glutes before we put it in a barbell. Then as the lifter gets more advanced and they're able to start loading up their deadlift, these exercises will go on auxiliary. So basically what will happen is you'll do your deadlift first, do a hard deadlifting session, and maybe do a few sets of these GPP exercises. For the advanced lifter, it can go multiple ways. Some advanced lifters do great with just deadlifting from that point forward, very specific, very technical preparation. Others do well by still continuing to include these GPP exercises and working to improve their strength and improve their volume. I'll tell you one thing, someone that can do a glute ham raise with 60 pounds extra load, they're going to have a strong posterior chain to be able to deadlift. Someone that can do a reverse hyperextension with 400 pounds with a pause, probably going to be a decent deadlifter. Someone that can do a barbell good morning with 500 pounds for a couple reps, probably going to be a decent deadlifter. So there is a big argument that has a ton of merit that, hey, you got to keep these exercises in, and it helps you get strong all around from different angles, different strength curves, different parts of the range of motion. So let's dig right in. The first one we got is barbell good mornings. Okay, so the first GPP movement we're going to cover is the good morning. This can be done with safety squat bar, straight bar, narrow stance, wide stance, chains, whatever. It's an awesome foundational exercise for the deadlift. It's basically a Romanian deadlift with the load on the shoulders instead of in the hands. So it's going to do a ton to tax the posterior chain from your traps all the way down to your calves, really, if you do it correctly. Now the movement, your hips are going to push back. This is not a rounding of the back, it's a hinge of the hips. This is what it looks like with the safety squat bar. Now you'll notice that whole time my lower back stayed in its nice tight neutral position. If you do these, you're going to get a lot of people, unexperienced PTs, coming up to you saying you're going to hurt your back, or keyboard warriors going snap city. It's simply just not true. If you stay tight in the core, keep your spine neutral, it's a great exercise for your hips, hamstrings, lower back. Good mornings. Next exercise that's awesome at building a foundation for your deadlift is the reverse hyperextension or reverse back extension. Name's a little misleading because you don't actually want to hyperextend your back. You want to keep it neutral, but many people will call it a reverse hyper. Now, your best option for this exercise is to own a piece of equipment that is dedicated to the reverse hyper. The Viper Pit does not have one just yet, but we are going to be branching out soon, and the new location will in fact have a reverse hyper machine, which I'll show you when we get it. If you don't have that, you're pretty much limited to a Swiss ball over a bench. So since we can't load it super heavy, The way you use this for training is for strength endurance or high volume. It's great for building the lower back. It does tax the glutes and hamstrings to an extent, but the biggest brunt of this is going to be felt in the lower back and the spinal erectors. Now, deadlifting, good mornings, all the variations of deadlifts are what are known as closed kinetic chain movements. So your feet are fixed and you're moving your torso, you're moving your body through space. This is more of an open chain movement. So your body is fixed and your feet are moving through space. So it works. So basically you can train a muscle from both ends. You can have a fixed origin and move at the insertion, or you can have a fixed insertion and move at the origin. So this basically trains the muscles in the opposite pattern that deadlifting does. So it's good inclusion in the program. Here's what it looks like on a Swiss ball. Simply drape your body over the ball. Oop, hey, and the ball rolls. All right. So you drape your body over the ball on a bench, hang on, and squeeze your glutes and your low back, and drive your body into the ball. Now, unloaded, that's not a huge stimulus. I typically, when I'm doing unloaded, will do sets of 50 to 100 reps in one set. Another thing you can do is hold a dumbbell between your feet if you need additional resistance without the specific reverse back extension machine. Next type of GPP exercise that you can include to help improve your deadlifts in a roundabout sort of way is all variations of leg curls. I'm not going to show you different leg curl variations because most of them require machines, but seated leg curl, kneeling leg curl, lying leg curl, Swiss ball leg curl are all good variations. The reason they help your deadlifts is because they train their hamstrings as knee flexors. Hamstrings cross both the knee and the hip joint, so they work to extend the hip like in the deadlift, and they also work to flex the knee. Both functions, it's important to train both functions for optimal hamstring strength and development and for injury prevention. So you definitely want to include some type of leg curl variation in your program from time to time. Again, I'm not going to show you, I don't have a ton of leg curl equipment down here. I typically will do them on a Swiss ball or in a glute ham raise variation that I'll show you here in a second. So just find the leg curl machine, curl away. Next up is the glute ham raise. Normally, I would do these on a special bench that's made for glute ham raises. However, again, I don't have that machine in the Viper Pit yet. It will be coming, it's on its way. But for now, what you can do is you can set this up to do natural glute ham raises or body weight glute ham raises. These are exponentially harder than doing them on a machine because your knee can't drop below the pad and give you a lever advantage. So anyone that can do these just their body weight down and up is a freak of strength. Typically what I do when I do these is I will do the eccentric only, so I'll try to control the eccentric down and then use my hands to push myself back up. These are a great posterior chain builder because they work the glutes, but they also work both functions of the hamstring. So hip extension as well as knee flexion. They do it at the same time, which gets the hamstrings really, really short at the top. You can also hook a band above, which is what I'm doing here for assistance. So I'm holding locked into the band. I'm gonna go down, under control, leading with the hips, and then curling back up. You want to try to keep a straight line from shoulder to hip to knee. So going down, leading with the hips, and curling back up. Band's a little too easy at the moment, but purple band will probably be a little bit better. But that's a glute ham raise. Build up volume in these. It's great for developing eccentric strength as well as strengthening the entire posterior chain. Glute ham raises can also be done with your feet hooked under a bench, or one of my favorite ways to do it is facing backwards on a lat pull down machine. You kneel where you're supposed to sit, you hook your heels under where you normally put your knees, and then you do a glute ham raise with a bench in front of you to push off of. Low cable pull-throughs are an awesome exercise for frying your hammies with a lot of volume. So I like to do sets of 20 to 25 reps or even higher, sometimes upwards of 50. So you fry the hamstrings and hips with a lot of volume, and are also great for patterning the hip hinge or teaching you how to push back into your hips because the pulley pulls you back. It's pretty simple. You simply straddle a pulley, use a rope or a single handle, walk out, and then you just push the hips back and reach with your hips. Reach, and then squeeze through. Reach back, squeeze through. Again, you're going to be limited by most weight stacks on a lot of commercial pulley units, so your best bet is to go higher repetitions at the end of a workout or moderate weight, moderate repetitions to cue the hip hinge pattern. Two more great GPP drills that didn't make the video cut are the 45-degree back extension and the horizontal back extension. I don't have the equipment down here, but basically you're hinging at your hips and you're just coming up and going to an extension. So bending forward, coming back an extension. You need a 45-degree bench like this or a horizontal bench where you can go down. On the horizontal bench, the load is highest when the moment arm is longest at the top, so in the maximally shortened position is where it strengthens the spinal erectors. In a 45-degree bench, it's when you're part way up, about halfway up, when you get the most resistance. So those two benches help you tax the spinal erectors and posterior chain at different points in the strength curve. Great variations. I simply don't have the equipment to show you, so doesn't mean you can't include them in your programs, however. Special way to do them, my favorite way to do them is either with a barbell on the back or with a barbell in the hands with a nice wide snatch grip to add extra load. You're going to be limited if you try to just hold a dumbbell under your chin, especially the stronger you get with those. That's it for this edition of Deadjuary. I hope you picked up some new foundational GPP or general physical preparation exercises that you could use to improve your deadlift. I believe in all-around strength development, so even though yes, you can get strong just by deadlifting, I like to overload different points of the strength curve, different muscle groups, and just become a more well-rounded strength athlete. Being strong at all angles is never a weakness. The only thing I'll warn you against is becoming a supplemental movement king or queen. These exercises are designed to provide a foundation for your deadlift. It's not the main course. They're the appetizer, all right? So don't be a glute ham raise star where you just work to build your glute ham raise and you completely neglect your actual deadlifts, all right? That's all I'm saying. Work hard at these, but they are not the star of the show. The deadlift should be the star of the show. I'm Coach Ryan Fanley in the month of Deadjuary. I hope you're enjoying these videos. If you like what you see, hit subscribe below. Talk to you tomorrow.